Chav Beis. Rolling, we left off page
27.
Page 27, Chav Beis in the Mishna Berura. The Mechaber says that before you say the bracha on the tzitzis, you should look at the strings to make sure they're intact. Because if not, it may turn out to be a bracha levatolo. But aval gav de blavochi yish chasisha sheyubash beged shel abra campus b'lo tzitzis. He says, what about the concern that you may be putting on a four-cornered garment without tzitzis, which is a Torah violation? Why is that a concern? What do we have to speak about the bracha, which is only rabbinical? What about, it's a bittul mitzvah saseh? You're in violation of a positive commandment. You wear a four-cornered garment. You must wear tzitzis. So he says, because we have a principle. We have a presumed status, right? Yesterday it was what? The tzitzis were intact. So there if you follow presumed status, the presumption is still intact. So in terms of being a violation of mitzvah saseh, I'm not concerned. Rak b'shem chomed lo siso shel brocha levatolo. But because of the seriousness of enunciating Hashem's name in vain, a bracha levatolo, hechmir lebodko. So therefore, we're machmir. We don't rely on chazokah. Chazokah is not sufficient. Therefore, it should be checked before you say the bracha. Okay, 1 second. The Gemara tells us in Shavuos that the person who has the ability to intervene when he sees somebody else is doing the wrong thing and he does not, he has a level of liability for that, whatever the transgression may be. Person could have protested, he did not protest, the sin is on his head.
Even if the protest isn't going to change it.
No, it may make a difference. It may make a difference. So Mara says, what about when it comes to taking a false oath? Right? So the Mara says that at Sinai, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, L'sisa Shem Hashov, L'siso, that's one of the 10 commandments. You should not say my name in vain. It says the world quaked, Arba Mea Pasa al Arba Mea Pasas. The whole world quaked. The world there, even if you have the ability to intervene, and you do intervene, and the person takes the false oath, saying the name of Hashem in vain, ultimately there's fallout. Because it's a disgrace to Hashem, saying his name in vain. Okay? Because yes, Chazok is enough not to be in violation of mitzvah saseh. You don't have to be concerned. Why the Shem Hashem? You have Chazokah. But we see saying the name of Hashem in vain is a lot more serious. We don't rely, for certain things we do rely on, and other things we don't rely on. Normally, are you going to be in violation of what? Wearing a beged without tzitzis? I'm not concerned. That you have chazokah. It's kashrus. Yesterday was kosher, presumption still kosher. But when you say the Shem Hashem, you see presumption's not enough. There you have to go to every length to make sure, to guarantee that you're not saying the Shem, because that's an indication of the degree of reverence that you have for Hashem, not to say his name in vain. That you see clearly. Interesting. Person is wears on multiple tzitzis. You put on talis cotton, you're putting talis cotton on. So you can say one bracha. In that situation, you have to check the talis cotton. You don't have to check the talis cotton. Because talis cotton is what? The presumption. That what? That the tzitzis are intact. And the talis cotton, you're going to check the tzitzis. So for bracha, one talis is sufficient to say the bracha, correct? Mm-hmm. So therefore, the bracha definitely will not be a bracha in vain because the talis gadol is being checked. So although you didn't check your talis katan, it's not a problem. For the mitzvah of tzitzis, that I have chazokah, right? I have presumed status. And for the bracha, I check the talis gadol, so that covers the bracha. You only have to check one of the garments. Came the bracha achas lekulam, because one bracha is going to cover the multiple garments you're going to wear. The Achronim say no, you should check every garment. It's not only because of the bracha. Bracha is not. You should check it.
Really?
Which you got?
Cheskes kashrus and tzitzis. Does that mean that the tzitzis are there, or that they're kosher tzitzis?
Well, initially you buy kosher talis in the whatever the bookstore, the svarim store. It started off as a kosher talis. Okay. Now, why are you concerned it may not be kosher any longer? Because maybe one of the strings were torn.
Right.
So I say, based on presumed status, yesterday all the strings were there. Why should I be concerned that they're not there? The answer is, you never know. It's possible one of the strings were torn off.
Right.
One of the strings detached itself from the garment, from the corner. Presumed status. It's always. I have a right to rely on a chazokah, cheskes kashrus.
Okay. So then why are we checking when we say the bracha then?
So we just said, because that's Lusisa Shem Hashov. When it comes to enunciating the name Hashem, where it may turn out to be in vain, we don't rely on chazokah. Chazokah is a reliance. When it comes to Shem Hashem, it's not reliance. You have to be definite. I'm not sure. You have to be it has to be definite.
Even though that's a rabbanon, and
It's not a drabanan. The obligation to say the bracha is drabanan, but if you say the bracha in vain, that's a doraisa. You're saying name Hashem in vain. Okay, so that's a whole discussion. We'll see. Okay, one bracha. Besati bat tzitzis. Well, everybody, nobody argues on that. Okay, we originally had said if a person mistakenly says l'satif on talus kotan, it's valid. Al mitzvahs on talus kotan is valid. So the proper text is l'satif on talus godel, there's no question it covers the talus kotan. That's l'chatchila. That's not b'di'evet, because it's the correct text. Okay, he says, but achronim, they argue on the mechaber, and they say even if you have multiple garments, every garment should be checked. Now the question is, what about chazokah? Aval achronim kosu d'tzok livdo kulam echod. Firstly, lo samchina chazokah v'moksh yichol levaru. Is right. The Torah says if you have a situation which you cannot verify, you can't. There's no, or it's too difficult to verify. You rely on presumed status. I'll give you an example. Mikveh was measured a week ago. You have no obligation. Every time you go into the mikveh, you measure to make sure they're 40. So there's a proper volume of water.
You don't have to.
You don't. But you could. The answer is it takes a tremendous effort. The degree of effort that it takes, they don't burn. That's not considered. You could verify it in terms of the amount of time or whatever it may be. But if, let's say, with a slight degree of effort, you're able to verify it, then Chacham say, then you have no right. You have no right to rely on chazokah, because that's called verifiable. If something is verifiable, you have no right to rely on presumed status. Now, what's called verifiable? If you could easily verify the reality, let's say we say sofi drabon l'kula, sofi brachas l'hokim. Person is ignorant, but he has a manual, a brachas manual. He says, I'm not sure what bracha to say. Well, the obligation to say bracha is rabbinical, so brachas l'hokim. I mean, you can open up the book, or you can pick up the phone and ask somebody, and they could tell you exactly how to conduct yourself. That's not so brachas l'hokim. Well, that's not sofi drabon l'kula. Well, it's rabbinical. Am I obligated rabbinically or not? Well, if it's a suffix, I have a right to deal with it leniently. So that's called ignorance. That's not called a suffix. So if you're able to verify something, that's not called a question. The question is where it can't be verified, or it's so difficult, or it takes such effort. That's considered it's not verifiable. Therefore, you have a right to rely on chazokah. Here, where you could easily check the tzitzis, you should check rather than rely on chazokah.
We believe our lives, right?
That's Erechot Nam Bisurin. That's belief. Two witnesses come and testify. A single witness says it's kosher.
Right.
You have a right to rely on it. That's not verifiable. That's not chazokah. That's not presumption. A person's credibility is based on presumption. But once you have the presumption that he's credible, you believe him face value for what he says.
Right, I see. That's why we believe, come home, I don't ask my wife if she's kosher. I don't know if it's kosher. Presume.
No, she doesn't. No. That your wife is credible is presumed. If she serves it, it's obvious it's kosher. That's the equivalent of her saying it's kosher. She doesn't have to verbally say it's kosher.
Right.
If she's serving to you, it's kosher. But let's say a person doesn't know anything about kashrus. Well, I presume it is because otherwise there is different. How can you make such a presumption? A person doesn't know enough to know even to serve you kosher. Good, Howard.
No, I'm just trying to understand what you're saying, David, about the presumption. I understand.
Okay. Witnesses are believed because they have a cheskes kashrus. So once that establishes their status as kosher witnesses, Torah says now whatever they say is bona fide evidence. It's uncontestable evidence. They say it, that's fact. Okay? The Gemara says in Psudas that a woman, she was a nida, she tells she's not a nida any longer, a person's wife. You believe her? Or let's say she said she tithed the bread, or tithed the, whatever she normally tithes the grain, the produce in the house. You have a right to believe her. Let's say she said, she had a question, she said she went to ask the rabbi. And he said that the examining cloth, wasn't a problematic color. The color it was. Then you go and ask the rabbi, he says, I never said it. Now it becomes a problem. The rabbi said he never said it. She said he did say it. He said he didn't say it. Now, unless she has a good excuse to somehow put herself in a better, to vindicate herself, she can't be trusted. She has no cheskes kashrus any longer. Going forward, she has no cheskes. Well, in the past,
What happened.
No. Going forward in this area, she cannot be believed any longer. She cannot be believed because clearly she lied.
But
She had a cheskes
before though, whatever she said before though.
Yeah. Well, until that point, from this now going forward, she's not believed any longer, unless she reestablishes her credibility. That has no Baruch V'Shema. It's clear. I mean, she can't be trusted. It's not okay. It's not a good issue. Okay. He says, firstly, it's what? It's Eshel Levrei. Since it can be verified, we rely on Chazokah. The Gam is also important. The Chazokah Grui, this Chazokah, this presumed status is very weak. Let's say something is prone to change easily. It's not uncommon that a person gets his caught on something. They could tear easily. So therefore, since there's always this question, something undermined what previously existed, that's why you have to check it. Something, let's say, which is kosher, that somebody had a non-kosher ingredient. Why should I even suspect somebody had a non-kosher ingredient? Correct? Something was pure. Did something contaminated touch it? Why should I say it? But here, when you wear, the nature of wearing a four-corner gum with tzitzis, it's not unheard of that it gets caught on something. Whether somebody steps on it, it gets caught on something, and if you move, any degree of movement, it tears. So that creates a question in the chazokah, in the presumed status. It's not so simple you presume that what was yesterday continues for that reason. Remember, it's like because it's not because the strings very often they tear. Before you put the talis on, the strings have to be checked every morning for this reason. He says something interesting. Let's say a person puts his tzitzis on. He's going, let's say, going to the mechaber. We can have this lady. Put your tzitzis on, then you have to go out to do your bodily functions, or urinate, whatever it is. What's the halacha? When you put your tzitzis, as long as you have in mind, when you take it off, you're going to put it back on, one doesn't have to say another bracha. According to the mechaber, when you take it off, unless you had initially in mind that if you should take it off, you're going to put it back, and you take it off later, when you put it back, you have to say a bracha. Now I'm giving to the mechaber in the Ramah. The mechaber is much more machmir regarding bracha. Here, the case. Person's davening a Sephardi. Goes out, he has to go out. Even if he has in mind when he takes his talis off, he's going to put it back on. When he puts his talis back on, he has to say a bracha. That's the position of the mechaber. The Ramah says no. As long as when you take it off, you have mind, you can put it back on. It's considered a continuation of the original wearing. One doesn't require a bracha. But let's say a person is wearing a talis and his talis falls off, slips off his shoulders, falls to the floor. The halacha is when you put your talis back on, you have to say a bracha. You have to say another bracha. In that situation, do you have to check the strings before you say the bracha? You just checked them 15, 20 minutes ago. Now, when you put it back on, do you have to say another bracha? So he says, in that situation, you don't. since it was recently checked, to say in that small interim period something may have happened, we're not concerned. We're not concerned.
Why
'Cause
not? If we're saying that something like that could happen
over an extended period of time, let's say during the period of davening from beginning to end, we say something could have happened during that time. So by the time you finish, for tomorrow, it should be checked again, because something could have happened. Okay?
Well, I want to ask a question about a fallen talis. This happens to me with some frequency. So I feel my talis beginning to fall. I know this halacha, and I try to grab it to prevent it from falling. And I say to myself, I don't want this to come in.
No.
And nonetheless, it falls.
If you go, so that's no different than you taking it off.
That's no different.
No different taking it
good,
off.
Because I couldn't prevent it.
Right? Doesn't make a difference.
I couldn't have prevented
There's
it.
halacha in Hilchas mezuzah that if you have a mezuzah on the doorpost, so originally, when you take the mezuzah off the check, you have a mind to put it back. As long as it'll be put back that same day, when you put it back, one doesn't have to say another bracha. Because it's no different taking off the talis.
Mhm.
And as long as one is removed, you have a mind to put it back, you don't have to say another bracha. Same day. Not right. So what happens? You come in, all of a sudden you see the mezuzah fell off the doorpost. When you put it back, you have to say another bracha. Of course, that's no different than the talis slipping off you. You never had in mind that the mezuzah should not continue being on the doorpost. So taking it off, having in mind to put it back, the removal is not considered a removal, because now when you put it back, it's putting it back where it was. Because you're the one who chose to take it off the doorpost. But if it should fall off, it's no different than your towel slipping off.
Mhm.
Initially, you never said a bracha ever. And you never said a bracha.
No, it's bracha. Now it falls off. It's supposed to put it back with another bracha.
So,
And you did, and you put it back without it.
see, so you put your hand on it, it's like tzitzis. What happens? You put on your talis, and you didn't say a bracha on the talis. And then you...
Wearing it, so you can-
So the mezuzah, every moment that mezuzah on the doorpost, you're fulfilling the mitzvah. Doesn't make a difference.
So shul, say your son is a bachar, gets called up for a high or something like that, and you take a towel off and give it to him. No problem.
He doesn't say a bracha.
What about you
He
putting
doesn't
it
have
back
a
on?
you, but when you give
No,
it
because
back,
you have a mind. When he finishes, you give it back. That's if you trust your kid. You may run off with it.
or like here, I give my towels.
Right, correct. Right. Because you expect to get it back. Exactly. Okay, to be continued.
So what happens if you're eating a meal and then you sort of stop in the middle and how does that work with the...
As long as the 72 minutes don't pass.
All right. So
Not a problem. That's
that's continuous. So even if you have...
But let's say you had in mind,
Yeah.
you're not, let's say a person's on a diet, and he's going to eat one slice of bread.
Right.
And when he said the bracha, he had in mind one slice, not more than a slice.
Correct.
Afterwards, he couldn't control his desire. And it's not something that happens continuously. And he has to say another motzi on that bread.
It does.
If he wants that second slice, he has to say another motzi. Because the Gemara says regarding a cup of wine, a person drinks 1 cup of wine, he has in mind to drink just 1 cup, not a second cup. When he drinks that second cup, he has to say another burpee agofen.
That's amazing, really. So if you